Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Local Leaders, the podcast. And look, before we get started today, I want to give a big shout out to our newest sponsor, Level Dumpsters. The good folks at Sea Level & Company offer both commercial and residential dumpster rentals in multiple sizes from 15 to 20 to 25 and even 30-yard dumpsters for all your dumping needs, whether it's cleaning up a construction site or just cleaning up the backyard. You can call them at 225-310-6647 or book online at leveldumpsters.com, and new customers can save $100 right now. Just mention Local Leaders, the podcast when you book. Level Dumpsters is a verified partner of Local Leaders, the podcast. And the person sitting across from me, I've known for a long time. Cheryl Jean, I don't know how long we've known each other, but it's been many, many years.
It's been a while.
You have worked on me. You have worked on my kids. You have worked on my wife, and always done fantastic work. So when we talked about doing this podcast, I was excited. Therapeutic Wellness, your new company. Well, it's been around a little while, but newer in the last few years for sure.
It is. I started Therapeutic Wellness years ago, but as it sits today, I started it about 5 years ago, part-time.
Yeah,
and I went
1 day a week, right?
About 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And then I went full-time in January of 2023.
January 20, and it was around 2020 when you were doing kind of the 1 day a week thing. 2020 had a lot of people doing different things. I started this podcast here where we're recording right now in 2020. And people are always like, are you crazy? That was a crazy time to start it. But, it's worked out for you. It's worked out for me. And so we're going to kind of tell people a little bit about your history before we get into, look, your amazing business. There's a lot about your business that people may kind of be familiar with, but we're going to dive deep into that and give them a little more knowledge on it. But you grew up in New York, upstate New York.
I didn't realize it was upstate till I moved out of state.
It was just New York then, huh? And what city was that?
Schenectady.
Yep. And I had you say that because you wrote it, and I'm like, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that.
I knew that.
Schenectady?
Yes.
There you go, Schenectady. And guaranteed there's someone out there that's heard of that, been there, or maybe even be from there. But you graduated from PT school. That was in the early 90s.
Yes.
And then you moved to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Back then, they PTs were they're needed, and so a company from Kentucky paid for part of my last year of school.
Oh, that's
interesting. I
interesting.
worked for them for a year.
Oh, very good, very good. So you went there, and eventually you met a guy.
I did. After Kentucky, I did traveling therapy, and then I was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and met my husband and came here.
Yep, and here you are in Denham Springs, and your husband is Mr. Patrick Jean, and he has a good history out here in Denham Springs area.
Yes, he's part
comes from a good painting family.
The Harlan Jean painting family.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with them, and all very talented painters. And you have a daughter?
Yes.
Katie Jo?
Yes. All
right, and I know one thing about you that you wrote on here that we need to mention, and that's that you love traveling.
I do like to travel.
Yeah, all over the country. And look, I used to follow you. Well, I still follow you on Facebook, but I used to go on your Facebook and I would see where you're at, and that's how I plan my trips. I'm like, that looks like fun. Natchez Trace.
That is fun.
It looked like fun, and you take great pictures, so that was always nice. Yep. But you like hiking, so you're very active.
I try to be.
Yeah. So have you always been that way? Always been active?
I have been. I did Jane Fonda back in the day.
Yeah.
With the leg warmers.
Yeah.
And that dates me. And on up. And I believe a body in motion stays in motion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I've always believed it was kind of like a machine. If you stop using it, it's going to fall apart on you. Right.
Yep.
So you started, as we mentioned, Therapeutic Wellness in January of 2020, and you were kind of doing it 1 day a week while you had another job, and you ended up eventually going full time in it in January of 2023.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Tell me what the biggest challenge has been since you went full time in it.
Honestly, probably the biggest challenge is belief in myself.
Yeah?
Yes.
Huh, that surprises me.
Well, we all have self-worth issues.
Absolutely.
I was with the prior company for years, and I was the face of that company for years.
Yeah.
And when I was doing they told me in January of 2023 that I was no longer needed to be there. And so there was my answer. But I had been praying, what do I do? And God helped me figure out what I'm supposed to do the most painless way possible.
Yeah.
So I was let go, and that's what catapulted me into doing this full time. And it's been phenomenal. If I hadn't been let go, I would always wonder if things got a little slow. Well, maybe I shouldn't have done this.
You just nailed it.
But now
right.
I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, or else God wouldn't have shut that door, because
sometimes people need that.
Right.
They have to have that door shut to open another one.
Right.
There's people out there that are going to watch this that are in that situation. I cannot tell you the amount of people that have sat across from me, and I've talked to hundreds that have that same story. And some of them, they needed that to really do what they were meant to be doing.
Right.
And so, it's all in God's plan. And maybe God knew that you're loyal. I know who you are. And so maybe he knew that, sometimes you have to be almost forced in that direction.
Right. And I was, because I wouldn't have left if I wasn't forced.
Right. Exactly. So, January 2023, there you are, and you've got this business, and you said, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to, you're extremely highly educated, and we'll get into that a little bit as well, but had to be a little figure in there for you. I talk about it all the time. When I started this, I was, as confident as I was in myself, and I knew if I applied myself, I could do anything. I was praying that phone would ring. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So you take off in January of 2023, and let's talk about what you do.
So I am a physical therapist. I learned about the John Barnes myofascial release process. I don't know if that process is the right word. Techniques, maybe.
Yeah.
When I was in PT school, he's been around since the 1960s. And he's still around. I've taken many classes from him.
Yeah.
He's not teaching as much now. In October, I have classes scheduled to be with him, and hopefully he will.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So anyway, so I learned about it in PT school, but they said this method is a body-mind connection, and your clients may have emotional releases. And in my young 20s, I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with a client if she starts or he starts to cry or something?
Yeah.
Scared of tears. So I really didn't do a lot about that then. But I learned some of the techniques, and I used them, some of the structural techniques. And then when I moved here to Baton Rouge, I looked for a therapist that did this, and I could not find one. It probably took me till 2016 to find one that was even in the area.
Yeah.
But I was working at the Baton Rouge General, and we worked a lot with the burn unit. It's outpatient, so it was all soft tissue scar management. And I worked with a lady, and we worked with breast cancer survivors and treatment from that, which is a lot of scarring.
I can see where you get your bedside manner from, because those are two very tough, especially the burn unit.
Yeah.
Very tough field area to be involved in, work in. It's just what you think you would think it is. It's a lot of pain.
It is. And by the time I saw them, a lot of that pain was different because it was healed. But it was all soft tissue. It was all scarring. And some of the stuff, the OT that I worked with had gone to some of John's classes, and she taught me some stuff. And then I started doing some things, and I didn't really know what was happening. I just knew if I put my hands on people and held them there for a while, things would shift and things would happen, and they'd feel better. So I would just say, shh, it's voodoo. I'm in Southern Louisiana.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's not, and it's I've done it. So it's one thing I really like about doing this podcast with you is I can speak from experience, and I'll do that in just a little while. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. So when I started going to his classes, he put the science behind what I was doing. So I've really been doing it longer than I've been trained by him.
Yeah.
So but it doesn't fit well in a traditional physical therapy setting because it's all one-on-one, and you got to see one patient at a time, and you can't see multiple people at one time.
Right. That makes all the sense in the world. So for those that may not be familiar, explain myofascia to the layman. What does that mean? What does it involve?
So myofascia is myo for muscle, fascia for fascia. So it's actually someone a couple years ago said it was the newest organ that was discovered, but it wasn't just recently discovered. It was kind of funny. But anyway, when you skin a deer, we're from Livingston Parish here, so a lot of people have experience skinning an animal.
100%.
There's that silver skin, that shiny stuff. That is your fascial system. And there's no beginning or no end to it. It's all continuous. If you've seen it, you understand that.
Yes.
If you haven't...
Fish have it.
Yep.
Also. Yep.
But almost everyone's seen the chicken at least. And you take the skin off the chicken breast or the chicken thigh or whatever, and there's still that shiny stuff. That's the fascial system. So it's around the whole body. It's around each muscle and organ. But then it goes down to the cellular level, and it's in each cell membrane.
Gotcha.
So that makes it an integral web that's 3D, that's the shape of you.
Right.
And it holds things into place. It has a biointegrity a component to it, which is a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
But it holds things into place, so your heart stays where your heart's supposed to be, whether you're standing up, lying down, doing flips in the air. Everything kind of stays where it's supposed to be because it's held into place by that tensile structure of the fascial system.
Yeah.
And if you think of a bridge with the cables, that's the tension.
Yeah.
Holds the bridge in place, so the tension from the cable. So if you think of that web inside us, it's that tension. So then there's also a fluid component of it, which is not seen in any imaging, any MRI, CT, ultrasound, photograph. You cannot see that.
Right.
And that's the other 80% of the fascial system. And that's where a lot of other practitioners, they aren't aware of that because medicine and anatomy was studied on cadavers.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
When we die, it's gone. So the book that I have, and I won't even try to pronounce his name, maybe you can put it somewhere in the comments in here. It was published in 2014. So that's how new the science is of what it looks like under the skin of a live person versus a cadaver.
Yeah. So it's just a netting almost.
Yeah,
it
is.
throughout your whole body, and it conforms with your body.
Yes.
Okay. And how would someone know I need this service? What are some warning signs that maybe they need this service, I guess?
Well, if you want to start with birth, you have the trauma of birth.
Yeah.
Of coming through. So there's that trauma. We have trauma, learning how to walk. We have trauma. I mean, even if you had an ideal, whatever ideal is, upbringing, there's always traumas that come through.
Sure.
For Pete's sake, now everyone's on their phone, leaning forward. There's something called cell phone neck. All of that is our body wants to be efficient.
Yes.
So if we are in a position for any period of time, it's going to harden. So that fascial system, that ground substance should be sloshy like water. You shake a water bottle. Over time, it gets thick like honey.
Stiffens.
Yeah, so it gets thicker.
Yeah.
And then it can get like, if you have real honey, it will crystallize.
Right.
So it gets even firmer. And then it can get as firm like sap that's been ambered sap, if you all know what that is.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
That's as hard as this.
Yeah, it looks like, it's marble almost.
Right. And so that can put up to 2,000 pounds of pressure on a structure. And it won't show up on any imaging. So why do people come and see me? Often they come because they have pain somewhere.
Yeah.
But Some people come because they know of the component that the body is the emotions and the physical body are not separate. So some people come for emotional reasons, anxiety, depression,
stress.
Yeah.
I think, and this would be just a good part of this podcast to interject. When I had it done, it was stress related. I was just under a lot of stress, which was, look, stress will kill you. You hear me? It will kill you dead. And business owners have stress. I mean, you roll with it. It's part of it. But I was increasingly stressed, and I can tell you, I don't know exactly what you did to de-stress, to make that go away, but I felt 100% better after. And it was almost like I went into a zone or something. It's really hard to explain, but stress will also cause you to have pain.
It does. And that's what got me studying this even more. After the flood of 2016,
mm-hmm.
I realized people are showing up with back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, whatever pain you wanted to call it. But what I was treating was PTSD.
Very interesting.
And
yes.
I realized that.
And that's a real thing with that flood.
It is.
That is a real thing. I know people that when it rains, they go into almost a panic. I mean, it's not outwardly, but inside they're watching the weather closely because they remember that and they got caught in the middle last time and they don't want to get caught in the middle again.
Right. And that's just one example of what can cause PTSD.
100%. Military guys, abuse, mm-hmm. all kinds of things. Yeah. Yes. And it's probably one of the most undiagnosed issues, because with PTSD, a lot of times, especially with men don't like to admit that they have PTSD on things. They consider it weak, and so I'm with you on that.
And
women
some people,
as well.
Right. And when I first started, I was in something just kind of was going on in my life, and I started having panic attacks. I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
But I described it to just happen to describe, this is what happens to me. And they said, you're having a panic attack. Well, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
So I didn't know. So then once I knew, I thought, oh, that's what that is. So either I have to get help, or I can say, Cheryl, you're having a panic attack, and do whatever I needed to do to dissipate that.
Yeah, right.
Get under control in that situation.
Sure. Very interesting. So I want to dig a little deeper into that. And I want to ask you this question. Fibromyalgia, mm-hmm. is that something that would work well with myofascia? It
really does. And it gives answers to a lot of the questions that the clients, people who have that label have. There's actually a book called The Fibro Manual, which is phenomenal. It's written by a physician who diagnosed with fibromyalgia in medical school, and her whole training has been on how to treat it.
Yeah.
And this is a big component of that because it's the myofascial system, and stuff doesn't show up on imaging.
Right.
When you have that.
And that's the issue.
Right.
Because I don't want to say a typical doctor, but people are trained that they see an injury, they treat the injury. And so they do an x-ray, and if your arm's broke, they're going to fix your arm. But if they can't see the injury, a lot of people don't know how to react to that. They don't know how to help you if they can't actually see it on an x-ray. Would you agree with that?
Right, because that's how they're trained. They're trained to fix the problem. If they don't see a problem, they don't know how to fix it. Yeah. And the fascial system this way is new science, so they may not even be aware that that's how the fascial system works, because it's not. I mean, I learned John Barnes' method in PT school in the early 90s, but I didn't learn the science behind it. I just learned these are his techniques. Well,
and you're very limited in what you do, and that there's only a few people in the entire state
there is
that practice that, right?
Correct? There's 4 in the Baton Rouge, Livingston Parish, New Orleans area that do this full time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's limited. That's
3.5.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, for you, I mean, it's obviously a good thing that you're in a market where you're needed and it's understaffed, I guess you could say. So that is always a good thing. And I want to talk about the process. So if somebody, maybe they're listening right now and they're saying, you know what, I want to try that out because I'm, maybe having some PTSD issues, or maybe I'm having some pain and I've tried everything else and it's not working. Take me through the process of what you would do.
There's a couple ways. Yeah. So you can go to my website, very easy, CherylJeane.com.
There you go.
Spelled CherylJeane.
And we're going to link it too.
Yeah,
so,
we'll link that.
So if you're driving or something, just click the link when you get home.
And you can schedule from there, or you can call or text me, and that'll be in the link also.
Yeah.
Texting is easier because I can't answer my phone. I won't answer my phone while I'm working on someone.
Sure.
And so if I'm between clients, I can quickly answer a text. I can do that quicker than I can call. And you can always email me. So you can get me all those ways, and I'll answer as soon as possible. But I will say this. Sometimes I'll get out of session and I'll have like 18 text messages.
I know the feeling.
And sometimes I go to text someone something else and I'm like, oh, there's the message. I never hit send to 3 days ago.
I've done that. Or it slips down to where you don't ever see it,
right.
Sometimes.
So if I don't reply, reach out again because that's what's happened.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And do people confuse us with like just typical massage?
It's a totally different modality.
Yes, exactly. So they're different. There's a different, I guess, end goal even with those two things. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So another interesting thing about what you do that I didn't know until, and I was glad you put this on your little questionnaire, was that you can go to the patient.
I can.
Yeah.
So depending on where they are, I can go to where they are. I prefer it to be at a business.
Yeah.
So like customer appreciation, I can bring my chair or I can bring my table. Honestly, I'm very picky about if I go to their home, I need to know them.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Just being honest.
That's right. No, that's honest and safe. But a situation where you're going to a business and they're having a grand opening or something like that, and she come there and kind of show people how it works maybe or whatever.
Or I can go and do a full treatment and set up in a quiet area, and you can send your employees.
See, that would be me, because what I hate is having to leave here. Having to leave my office is like pulling teeth with me. I just feel like a fish out of water. So it's convenient for people like me that hate to leave the office. But I was happy to see that. You also have a space at Dr. Ripple's?
Yes.
Okay.
1680 Benton Lane. It's corner of Florida and Benton.
Let's talk about your education real quick. So you got your doctorate.
I did. Back when I went to PT school, there wasn't a doctorate wasn't available. Mm-hmm. So I got my bachelor's. Then I went back and got my doctorate, I guess 2012.
Yeah.
And I'm a forever learner.
Yeah.
I think I spent, well, we won't say how much I spent.
A lot.
Yeah. Probably the past, well, in 2020 and 2021, I didn't take as many classes, but in 22 and 23, I took over 6 classes. So it was over, I don't remember, I can't do the math that quick in my head.
Yeah.
But of continuing education, because I just believe in that. And that's formal classes that I've been to. It doesn't count anything else.
And you have a huge passion for it, which, if you know Cheryl Jean, you know that already. But I'm telling y'all, I don't think there's anybody that loves the anatomy of the human body and how it works and more than you do. I mean, it just seems like that's something that has intrigued you ever since.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
fun. Absolutely. And since the 9th grade.
That's when I decided I wanted to be a PT.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wanted to be a football player in 9th grade. I thought I was going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's that's pretty awesome
Yep.
that you're pretty much your entire life from the time you could figure out what you at least found interesting. You've wanted to do this, and here you are now, and you're still doing it.
Yes.
And making it happen. Not only doing that, but your own business, you know, and that's the beautiful thing there. As you said, you're a forever learner. You're someone that you love to learn new information. And I would imagine in your field, something's always coming up. Science is constantly learning, right? They're figuring new ways to do things.
It is. We'll never understand the total body. We'll never understand the whole body totally. And what I've also learned is to always approach each class as a beginner.
Yeah.
So I have retaken a class last year, and the first time I took it, I'm like, oh, I knew most of that stuff.
Yeah.
The second time I took it, I said, crap, I didn't know anything. So I went back and I took it from the same teacher.
Yeah.
And I went back and I looked, I said, the books cannot be the same.
Right.
They're exactly the same, but I came from a different standpoint. I was at a different part of my life, a different part of my learning journey. I went in as a beginner, and it was like a whole new class.
Yeah, your whole perspective changed.
Yep.
And that's interesting.
You never step in the same river twice.
I like that. You never step in the same river twice. That's a fact. Cheryl Jean knows a lot about a lot when it comes to not only what she's doing with her business, but also other aspects of that business. I took a class from you one time. I don't remember what it was, but it wore me out. It might have been yin yoga or something, some sort of class. And I was going cry. I was the only guy in there, y'all. I was like, why am I the only dude in here? But let me tell you, it was challenging. It was about 30 minutes of all kinds of crazy stuff.
That might have been Pio.
Pio, that's what it was. Yeah, Pio's tough.
It is really tough.
But I had a great time doing it. I was sore for about a week. I needed the myofascia after that.
You did.
And before we get on that topic, with the myofascia, if you have soreness, you work out or something, maybe you overdo it a little bit, or you work out for the first time in a long time, and everybody knows that 3-day soreness after that where you can't lift your arm above your head because your chest is hurting. Would that be something good for?
Yes.
Okay.
My rule of thumb with my clients is I teach them stretches. You can always try heat or ice. Some people have portable TENS units at home, and stretch. And if it doesn't get better in 2 or 3 days, if it doesn't make a change, you need to go and get some help.
Yeah.
Because the sooner you can get treated, the less time it takes you to get back to where you want to be.
Yeah. That's a great point. So you do some other things, and you teach yin yoga. We brought that up earlier.
Yeah, I teach yin yoga. That is an extension of my table.
Yeah.
Because what I do on the table is 3 to 5 minute holds. So here at yin yoga, you learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah. And what is yin yoga?
I'm
what's the best way
actually
to
going
explain
to
that?
change the name I need to change the name to Myofascial release yin.
Yeah.
Because some people get afraid of yoga.
Yeah.
And they think it's too hard because of your experience with
Yeah.
Maya, which is
Yeah.
Pilates yoga.
Yeah.
Yin yoga, if you think of yin and yang, most people understand that. Yang is how we live most of the time. You got to go, go, go. You got to get this done. You got to meet this deadline. You got to push harder. You got to lift harder, heavier. You got to run faster. And we live in that.
Sure.
Yin is exact opposite.
Yeah.
So you're going to come in. The classes are usually about an hour long, and you change positions 12 times. So every 3 to 5 minutes, do a little bit of movement, and then we go to a new position. So it's really a good, deep stretch that gets deep into the fascial system.
Yeah.
And it helps you learn how to self-treat.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Which brings me into some other classes. I teach other self-treat classes. I had to do a hip and back one, neck and shoulder. I do one called myofascial facial. However, there's a connection between your face and your pelvis. So
Really?
every time I've taught that class, someone's hips are released.
Really?
You
Wow.
have to come to class.
Yeah. That's interesting.
But I can teach other
Myofascial facial.
I can teach other classes depending on, like if I went to a company and they wanted something specific for their company because they're having injuries in a certain way, or they want to prevent injuries, or they want just stress management, I can design classes for a particular population if that's what they want.
Yeah. You brought up earlier emotions in myofascia. Have you ever experienced people just flat out crying on you?
People have cried, people have laughed, people have sworn, people have screamed.
Wow.
And it doesn't
bringing out
happen.
them emotions, Cheryl Jean.
It doesn't happen all the time. A lot of times people just are chill. But we know the emotion. We talk about it. Man, I'm so stressed. My neck is killing me. Or I've got a stress headache. Or man, I felt it like a punch in the gut. We say these things with emotions and pain. Mm-hmm. It's in our language. I think we just forgot that it lies there. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, which really talks about how your body keeps score of whatever life has happened to you.
Right.
It's a really neat book to listen to.
Interesting.
Or read.
Interesting. Yeah, listen to or read nowadays because you got both options.
Yep.
And so let's talk about TMJ's connection with the pelvis.
So that's what I was talking about, because that's class in the myofascial facial class. We do something, a technique for TMJ. But embryonically, your pelvis and your jaw were right together. And then your spine was grown in between it. So there's a huge component there. So it's usually if there's a rotation or there's a problem at the pelvis, there's going to be a problem at the jaw and in your temporal bones. And it's going to mirror what's happening at your pelvis.
That is so interesting. And not only in that particular example, but you and I were talking off camera about how an injury can feel like it's in one area and it's actually in another.
Usually where the problem is not where the symptoms are. It's not where you're feeling the pain or feeling the itching or feeling whatever it is usually not where the problem is.
Yeah. That's interesting. So if you're, you could be rubbing your arm and it actually be your neck. That's the issue.
It could be your neck. It could come from, because that
could come from your back.
Yeah. Because of that intricate web. So if you think of a sweater and then picture it 3D, if you pull a snag on that sweater, it can go in 400,000 different directions.
Right.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Because there's all those different cells. So, and it can have fingers that, so you might get a snag, like say your snag is a C-section scar.
Yeah.
You might get a snag there. Well, it can go into organs. It can wrap around, your digestive system. So things don't flow the way they need to flow.
Yeah.
Fallopian tubes, stuff needs to flow in and flow out of there to make a baby.
Yeah.
And if the fascial system is tight on there, it can crimp it like a hose.
Yeah.
But it can also pull up into your shoulder. A lot of times I'm working on the psoas, which is a deep muscle in your back that I get to from your front. And people feel it in their neck. They'll feel it, or their face will get hot, or they feel it in the opposite shoulder, or they'll feel it down the other leg. I mean, it can go literally any direction. And it's just fascinating. Every client's a different.
I can tell.
And it's fun.
You love it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Why do you do this? Why do you think you do?
I want to help people live until they die.
Yeah.
I've watched so many patients over the years, especially with diabetes. You go and get the toe taken off, and you get the below the knee and then above the knee. Well, that's something that you can see.
Yeah.
But a lot of us accept aging as something that just should happen. Okay, well, now I can't run to the mailbox. I have to walk. Well, now I can't even walk all the way to the mailbox. Now I can't get out of my chair. All that stuff doesn't necessarily have to happen. Or, you know what, I'm just old. I'm going to have aches and pains. Yeah.
A lot of people say that too.
But it's because that fascial system is thick. When you're a kid and you fell down the stairs, you got up and you just went on.
Yeah, right.
once you hit your 40s or your 50s, you sleep funny and you get out of bed and you get a kink and you walk crooked for 3 weeks.
You're popping all over the house.
Yeah. But it's because that stuff that should be sloshy is thick.
Right.
So I really want people to help them to be able to move and do what they want. I want them to be able to play with their grandkids. My mother it was raining outside, so she ran from the car to the house carrying my daughter, who was 2, in her 70s.
Wow.
My stepfather at 84, laying on his belly in the middle of the floor playing a game with my daughter. She was about 4 or 5 at the time. And he just gets up.
Yeah.
No grunting, no crawling over to something to pull himself up. He just got up. Yeah. My dad, he passed away when I was 16. He was always able to do, and he had a heart of a child. So I had great examples in my parents, and that's really what I want to help people do.
Oh, I love that. Tell me about Regina Walker.
Okay. She is the local hero for that to me. She would come to see me, and we'd go to schedule. Well, I got to schedule around my personal trainer and my golf instruction and whatever. I mean, it was all these things that because she was forever learning, forever growing, forever keeping herself mobile. And she did that her whole entire life. Mm-hmm. And I had actually heard that she had a tea time scheduled when she went into the hospital and had told her doctor that you have to get out because I got to go have a tea time. I got to go play golf.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to be able to do, is to live, not just exist, but to live.
There's a difference in there.
There is.
Yeah.
And people accept existing because I think that's all there is.
Amen to that. I agree with that 100%. And they don't know any other way. You know, they, like you say, they feel these pains and they just assume, this comes with age. And some things do. Look, have I slowed down from the time I was 20? Yeah, probably. But that doesn't mean I can't do, and in some cases, do better at this age. You'd be surprised what some 50-year-old people can do in this world. I mean, you really would. But you have to believe it here, and you have to do what you have to listen to your body,
right?
And what it's telling you. And I think I firmly believe that's where you come in, and you're one of a very limited group. I can't say that enough. There's not a whole lot of people that are masters of what you do, and I've done it. I can speak to it. And that's what I love about it. It works. It really does work. Your slogan, "Forever learning, always a beginner," is very fitting for you. Because you are forever learning. We just discussed that. You are someone that has, in this field, you have always seeked out knowledge, and always a beginner. So you always look at everything as if you're starting.
If you go with a beginner mindset, you can learn something. If you go in that I know it all, you aren't going to learn squat, and you're going to piss everyone off.
Yeah. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
That's what someone said to me a long time ago, and I believe that. Let's talk about your networking. So I believe, and I love featuring people on this show that give back. Also, I believe big time in networking. You're a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
I am. I've been a member probably 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, if you're a business owner and you are not investing in your local Chamber of Commerce here, it's the Livingston Parish Chamber of Commerce, you need to look into it, because they do a lot of things behind the scenes to help business owners. And it's a great avenue to learn from other business owners. And you're also a member of BNI. Business Networking International. I was a member of BNI for a very long time as well, and probably the best networking organization out there, in my opinion.
Yeah. If you're looking to build your business, BNI is by far superior to anything else I've ever done. The Chamber is great for other reasons, but for building business specifically, BNI is they have the education, and again, I'm a forever learner.
Yeah.
But they have the education built in that helps you really succeed.
Yeah, they really do. It is the cure for the common cold call.
It is.
I wish I could say I coined that phrase. I did not. Actually, I got that from you years ago. And you still say that one.
I do.
Yep. So, one-on-one treatment is essentially what you do. We talked earlier about the difference between conventional, I guess you could say, physical therapy and what you're doing, where a lot of times it's group things, and many of us have had surgeries and stuff, and they'll say, okay, you need to do some physical therapy for 6 months. You had a shoulder surgery and you go and you lift the whatever it is y'all do. I'm not going to try because you're going to be like, oh my gosh, we're cutting this out. But you physical therapy yourself. So the difference between that and myofascia primarily is this is one-on-one. And it's very, I don't know if intense is it's intense. It is absolutely something where even if it's stress related, maybe you don't realize, that pain in your neck is caused by stress. Headaches are caused by stress.
A lot of times.
Yeah. I don't ever get headaches except for every now and then. And every time I get them, it is when I'm stressed.
Right. So I work well with traditional physical therapy because they don't have time in the structure of the business model of traditional physical therapy to do hands-on for 30 to 45 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Where that's what I do.
And that's what you led me right into that next question, which was who are good referral partners for you? And
traditional physical therapy, gyms, because I still believe you got to move and you got to exercise. And so I do a lot with Resolute Fitness.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other
great people over there.
They are. A lot of the other local gyms in town. I know a lot of them, so I can help guide people to what fits their personality and their location. So those are good referral sources. Chiropractors, because again, they don't have the time necessarily to spend an hour with their clients.
Yeah.
Some chiropractors spend 4 to 6 minutes. That's what they have budgeted.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but quite a few that I've talked to. So I can complement what they're doing.
Would you, if someone has anxiety, we talked earlier about PTSD, which is a form of anxiety, but let's say some other sort of anxiety. Maybe they have social anxiety. Some people have that. I'm definitely not one of those, but some people do. For those people, your service good?
I've had a couple people that I can think of right now that have come to me for other reasons, and anxiety was not one of them. One was when I was in traditional physical therapy, and that's not something you typically go to traditional physical therapy with.
Right.
And their anxiety was noticeably decreased. And when they were telling me about it, I realized it was from this treatment. They didn't necessarily make the connection, again, because that's not what you go to traditional physical therapy for. But I don't promise that anything will get fixed.
Right. But
I know
you've seen it happen.
Yeah. I know it can help.
Yeah.
I know it can help.
Yeah. Very good.
So
we do fun facts on this show. And when I read yours, I actually loved them. I loved the first one. And we do these just so people can kind of get to know somebody outside of just their business and learn a little bit about their personality. And I asked you, if you had a yacht, what would you name it? And you said, enjoying the journey. That's perfect.
Yep.
That's perfect. And you're on a journey now, right?
Yep. I actually had a t-shirt made with it when I did my triathlon because I knew I wasn't going to win. And it was all about just having fun while I was doing the whole thing.
Love that.
I was enjoying the journey.
As much as I love that answer, I loved your next one. I asked you, what did you want to be when you were like 12? And you said, I think I was in middle school. All I was thinking about was clothes, shoes, and boys. Very good. And that is probably most people at that age. Believe it or not, at one point, I remember back when I was 12, 13, somewhere around there, I wanted to be a weatherman. Could you see me as a weatherman? Yeah. Tornadoes coming. Everybody get shelter. I don't know. Weather to me has always intrigued me. I don't know. Go figure. I asked you if you had any superpower, what would it be? If you could have any superpower. And you said, and this did not surprise me, you said to strengthen my intuition. So I find this, you can tell a lot about somebody when you ask them that question, they say. And, some people say, I would like to be invisible, or I would like to fly. But typically, and this is not something that is told to anybody in advance, people in the healthcare industry always answer similarly. So it's always something that it's carrying. That's something that is a unselfish superpower, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to fly, so mine, I just wanted to fly around, but your healthcare people, typically it's more deep, I guess you could say, so your intuition, you would strengthen that. And that would be a great thing for anybody to have. I asked you about traveling and you answered it just how I thought you would. You said, why limit myself? I love Sedona, Banff. I've never been to Banff, but my wife has.
It's beautiful.
Yes, that's what she says. Canada, and never been there. I've been to Alaska, and that's beautiful. But she tells me Banff is gorgeous. If distance wasn't an option, and you and I share both of these places, Ireland and Iceland, and I actually want to travel to both of those, especially Ireland. I don't know what it is about Ireland, but it looks
green.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's green. Love it. You talked a little bit earlier about how people can go about booking with you. CherylJean.com, which I'm going to link in this podcast in the description. And so you can go there. It'll give you all the information you need on setting up an appointment and trying it out for yourself.
Yes.
Anything else you want to mention?
No, thank you for this opportunity. And this is something you've got to experience.
Yeah.
You alluded to it earlier. It's hard to put into words. It's right brain and left brain is the words.
Yeah.
So it's right brain work. It's feeling. So people often don't have words.
Yeah.
So we tried to put some of this into words, and you still just have to experience it. To
get the full effect, yes. And we want to tell them about your upcoming events before we get out of here.
Okay.
So tell us about that.
I typically have yin yoga going on. So in July, and I'll have that. I am, for the first time, I'm going to do some foam rolling classes. Upper body focus will be in August. Lower body will be the end of this month, June. And then in September, I have 4 classes set up at Southeastern. I think their next fiscal year starts in July, so you can sign up for those classes.
Very good. And that's Southeastern at Livingston, right there in Walker?
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
And I'm always doing different things at different places, so you can check out social media, Facebook.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put, she's got a little sheet in here with those upcoming events, y'all, and I'm going to post that on our social so that people can see that as well. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for being you. And obviously I wish you all the success in the world. And I hope people were able to get a little bit of clarification on how important what you do is. And those who need it, reach out to her. Before we get out of here, also, I want to thank a guy by the name of Matt Decker. And I want to shout him out. Look, he has been following Local Leaders Podcast since the beginning. This guy shares all my stuff. And he's just a great fan of the show that really goes out of his way to make, he appreciates local business. And I really appreciate Matt Decker. Just want to shout him out. So thank you, sir, for all you do to help us get people like Dr. Cheryl Jean out there in their business. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you very much.